Here we go. Yep, absolutely recording. So what am I gonna do? Well, I'm just gonna make some text and I'm gonna come up with something like a saying for me to render, just anything at all. Like deep, but not really, like faux deep. Perhaps, well, I'm just going to fiddle and see what comes out of my brain. Bit lame. It's not bad actually. Between towards failure or toward being a failure. Failing once. It's quite good. Yeah, I guess I need something like an appropriate font for this. I'm quite unimaginative when it comes to fonts. I generally try the same things that work for me at other times. I'm a massive fan of this font at the moment because it looks so damn good. Yeah, shit. Well, the thing is, this font, you see, has some ligatures and other things like that. So if I want to do it really well, I'll do it like this. Failing once is the first, what have I said? First step toward being a fail. Right. Now, let's try this with Glamour Absolute. And this font has some nice ligatures, as you'll see here, because, for example, like that, yeah, it's not too good. Fail once, oh yeah, bit interesting. The dumb, the no. No, don't like any of those. Is see, the F and I have done their thing automatically already. Nothing that can be done there. No. No. Failing once is the first step towards true failure. Failing just once is the first step toward failure. We'll pause tracking back a bit. Squash these lines up a bit. And then muck around with the spacing and kerning and stuff around about it, so that the whole thing fits together nicely. And then this is the same as you do in Blender, as in this program, is that you find a point, you hold down Alt and you push and you shift around with the cursor keys to adjust your kerning, because nothing's that perfect out of the box. I don't necessarily think I'm like the best at this or anything, but I like that tracking toit look a toiger. Right, that's pretty good. Export U as an SVG. This is the way I've found that tends to work the best for getting into Blender. Where I what? Right, that's right. It's all a whole bunch of different shapes. So select all, object join. I used Control B to do a box, by the way. And then I can surface. Now I can go 0, 0. Cool. Now I've got the text, and we're happy with it. What are you? A curve. We'll convert you to a mesh. Zoom in on you. That failed. I don't even know why sometimes like these kind of things fail. But what's happening? Where are we? I'll do this piecemeal. I tend to find at least this gives me a bit more. What? How does that make sense? Object join. Okay, so they worked. Object join. Hasn't fucked up so far. Object join. Object join. Object join. I can see that it doesn't like joining these things as you're touching. So I might go back and make sure that nothing's overlapping here, because that is clearly a problem. What else is overlapping? ST. Right, let's re-export. Of course, I want to replace it. Import. Right. If we just do the whole thing now, can we do it? No join. I've looked at this in the past and I've been like, what is it that it doesn't like me joining together? I can even work it out. Join. So far so good. And then join these three together. Join. Sweet. Right, let's save this as failure. Right, let's move it to the mesh. Here we go. I saw something happen down there. Now I'm not really familiar with how things work with curves, so I just used hitting L, which usually, at least in Mesh Edit, it selects what's under the mouse, the whole of the object and all its connected points. So I use it quite a bit in Mesh Editing. Right, let's see if I convert this to a mesh now. What happens? It looks good. Save now. Now it would have been nice if Affinity would have exported it with more points, but it hasn't. So one thing I always do with text is, once I'm in the edit mode, is mesh, clean it, limited dissolve, and I change it down to 5:1. It gets rid of heaps and heaps of stuff that doesn't need to be there. It works pretty well. And then we generally have this pretty nice looking mesh, and if you wanted to do an extrude, well, it didn't work out nicely. If you want to do an extrude, you end up with some pretty relatively tidy mesh. Anyway, so what are we going to do with it? Well, maybe I'll just do the kind of thing I normally do, and see how we go. So actually, if I actually back out till we've got a curve, the nice thing about a curve, and I'll show you why. Surface, let's bring it down to. So what I did there is, I have my space set up for search because it's fast for me. Origin, and I'm always resetting the origin to the surface of volume. Right, so I'll save that. Shift D is duplicate, but if you hit Shift D to duplicate, then hit Escape, it just leaves a second object on top. So with that second one, I'm going to do that one, convert to mesh. Don't want to look at that one. Select all, mesh, clean up, and dissolve just like before. Sweet. So now the reason for that is that I have a mesh which I can use to extrude, etc. Or I also have this curve, and the reason I want the curve is because, and I've got a tiny circle there, so curve, go to the curve, here's the preview, 50, obviously taper object. If I put the circle, see it? No, we can't. I don't know why taper object is called circle. It doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, what's happening here? These curves don't like being on top of each other, eh? I'll do that. There we go. And I'll have to delete that again. And then, so I might actually just get this curve working by itself before I fiddle around with the mesh. Right. Those collections are making up everything. Right, so curve, we're displaying you got a circle, but why can't we see the circle? Maybe the circle is simply too small. Scale you up. Sometimes I quite often forget the order or the way things going. For example, is it the material I apply to this that works, or is it the material I apply to something else to the circle that works? I don't know, but for now I was going to chuck an emission in there, and I've got a world shading tab. This is like, I quite often have a bunch of stuff preset so that I can, like when I immediately come in, it's got a sky texture there, or I can flip it to a studio depending on the mix, but I actually bring the whole thing down so that I can turn this on and see something whatsoever. Now something's glowing, and it's the entirety of the curve. Now that's actually not what I want, so I'll kill that. But the circle, what's the circle got on it? Oh, where was that material just using? So curve, taper object. Is it just the, yeah, it's just the selection. Circle. I'll make my own one. Add a curve, add a circle. Scale it down a bit, move off the side, and you can just be Bezier circle now. There, Bezier circle, are you doing anything? Quite hopeless with curves at times. Sometimes you can get a nice effect. See, how have I done it here? I've got this logo, which if I show you is this Rodtronics logo, which is sitting there, and that has it set. Oh, it's the bevel, not the geometry. See, this is why every time I do this kind of thing, I have to relearn what I'm doing. I probably don't need that. The object, circle, there we go. Make it 2D. Look a bit better. Now it kind of looks horrible. This might not work at all. I'll select the circle, scale it down, not up. Scale it right down. Come on. Man, won't you? Yeah. $50 is probably too much actually. Alright, so what have we got here? Failing just once is the first step towards failure. Right, cool. So we've got this standing up in my camera. Right. Delete you actually. Failing just once is the first step towards failure. Well, what we got here? I mean, it doesn't look great, but it also doesn't look terrible because we started off with some good shit, my friends. 10. How's it look now? Oh, it's got a bit of glow. Sweet. So now what are we going to do? Well, depends if we want to sort of keep it 2D or 3D. I mean, I kind of like this kind of thing. Might as well, what should we make it into? A rainbow, because believe it or not, I try to make everything into a rainbow. So I have Node Wrangler plugin turned on, which is nice because I can just hit Control T on anything and it gives me this mapping and that there. Delete that one because it doesn't make sense. Add converter, separate them, pull them apart. Color converter, color ramp, and we plugged it in there, and it is actually darker down there. It's just hard to tell because I've got the emission cranked up. So let's put some colors in here. Yeah, blue and orange. Oh, I've never done that before. Looks kind of horrible. If we added something in the middle and made it green, why are we not getting the blue over there? Ease, linear, constant. Oh yeah. I don't know why it's like that sometimes. That why the orange is, you know, why that is the edge of it. Ah, Jenny was right. Object gives a different thing. Well, what does the UV sync? Makes no sense as well. Sometimes camera and window are quite handy because it's just what the screen's doing. And it doesn't matter what angle that you look at it. It's orientated to the screen. For some things like this, it's actually quite good. And I might actually just leave it like that with the screen, but change it to something else. Like this. Failing just once is the first step towards failure. But anyway, I need more colours in here. I need to go through a yellow. Or and what will that look like with a bit of blue up the top? That looks kind of raster, I suppose. Well, not really. But it's not too bad. Failing just once is the first step towards failure. Right. Now, this is where I'm going to duplicate that curve. Then turn this off so I can work on this. Convert to mesh. Right. No. Did that wrong. So I wanted to get rid of this. so that it's just like that. Oh, how's that look? Convert that to mesh. Do the thing where I see do the cleanup again. Now I'm gonna do something which I've done a few times, which I think is kind of cool and different. Anyway, to try and make like a fake effect, what I do is I extrude it, right, and I've got it going behind, and just to emphasize the effect, I will, under the camera, I'll make it orthographic, scale it up so we're just about there. Right, now go back into editing this curve. Now see if I, as you can see here, I've got only the back faces selected. So if I pull them up like this, because we're looking at it from an orthographic point of view, it kind of gives that effect, and it's kind of bizarre because it's like we're not actually looking at it on an angle. You know, I could actually do it as a vertical drop, which gives its own effect. You know, and that looks pretty bad, but it's because of that texture. So what would happen if we give this thing a different texture? Just that, and turn back on this curve. Now you'll notice it wasn't directly down, so that's bugging me. So what I'll actually do is I'll delete these vertices, select everything again, extrude it back a bit, and then drag it directly down. So it's completely straight now. And all of those points. Yep. Turn this back on. Render this. Sad excuse for render. You know, it could be worse. Now because of some, I guess, legacy reasons from old renderers, I got used to using squared samples. So 40 is actually 1600. It's just, I think it works better for me, like the way I think about it. Anyway, this is how I have all these things set. Yeah, I always have adaptive on. It's good. Always got to have that thing on, because if you're animating and you don't, it's a mess. Right. Look at all those cores fly. I'm actually more happy with this than I thought I might be. It's alright. Now the only thing I'm going to do to make the make myself actually happier for the final product is move the camera down, physically down, so that there is it's just a bit more balanced with the red underneath. And it's worth, I guess, experimenting with this material a bit. Is it a metallic? What does it do there? What does it look like? Quite different, I suppose. I spend an awful lot of time at this stage of the process mucking around with materials. Interesting. These render slots over here are handy for comparisons. Now, I'll take it back to 10, I suppose, because I just want to draw it quick. It's noisy. Sometimes if you really want to draw it quick, denoising is quite good. And what's real funny is that if I hit this, it usually says down the bottom, denoiser not supported by compute type. So if I change it to CPU and hit it, oh, it worked. Amazing that. And then if I switch it back, it'll work again too. So it works. I don't know why. Looks a bit smoother. Now if I bring that roughness right down, how does it look now? Denoising is good for low samples, but I reckon it makes the picture look a bit, I don't know, rummy. Oh, it did really make it brighter. That's a bit pointless. In the middle, look at metallic and see how that looks. Nah, they're all much of a muchness really. So I'll just leave it like that. Unless I subsurface it, which makes the render go super slow. And end up looking like a big bright mess. Which, to be honest, I don't really mind. I like bright things. Nah. Yeah. Somewhat happy with that. Now I already have my composition set up because it's the same for most things. Right. A final render so I can work out how much bloom I want. I call it bloom. Because I've cranked up in the shading in here, because I've cranked up the emission, because if the emission was 1, it kind of looks kind of sad. It's just the colours. It's not really anything. As you start pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, you start to get some interesting like brightness. Like it looks very bright, but you kind of tend to lose the colour. So there's a balance there. For me, 5 or 10 is pretty good. Shit, that does look cool though. Such a sucker for that brightness. So yeah. Now that looks dim again. So let's turn off that denoising. It's bothering me. But anyway, I got the glow. This is purely the glow. Can do it like this. I've got the mix up high, so what we're seeing here with the viewer node, which is output in here, it's just a pure effect. Then that's it without the effect at all. That's it with the effect. I'm happy with it. Easy as. Now I've taken lately to also using the lens distortion, because I reckon a tiny amount of that, like 0.02, like, because even 0.1 is heaps with this. 0.5 is way too much, but 0.02 is actually kind of nice, we reckon. And another thing I've been doing sometimes is I bring in some noise. So I've got a bunch of like images of grain which I use for different purposes, but mostly bring in there. Now with an ad, the reason I might want to do that is because it's kind of, I like it with having the black levels lifted up, plus it adds noise grain in there. I'm never really sure which one of these modes is the best to use, because sometimes different ones look better depending on what I'm doing. But add usually with a small amount, 0.1, just, yeah. Do I like that? Tiny bit of it. Yeah, tiny bit. 0.05. Or not. Nah, let's just leave it. So, I'm somewhat happy with that, I suppose. So, I will do a size of 100, put you at 50, hit F12, and wait for you to render. I remember a long time ago when I would start using LuxRender and things would take like many hours. I'd leave them on overnight just to get a single image. It's telling me now that it's got 2.5 minutes remaining. I'm like, oh, come on. Anyway, that's it really. That's how I made this picture.